Honorable Chief Minister, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of TiE's 15,000 members, and we'll get the statistics right because we've heard a variety of statistics this morning. On behalf of TiE's 15,000 members in 61 cities and 18 countries, it is a real pleasure and privilege to be once here again at TiECon Kerala for the second year in a row. In this most beautiful state that boasts the highest literacy, the highest life expectancy, and the lowest corruption of any state in India. Chief Minister, you're to be congratulated. I got his attention. First of all, a big hand to TiE Kerala President John Paul and his entire team for pulling off this great conference. Probably the largest gathering of entrepreneurs in South India on a regular annual basis. Last year at this conference, I spoke about innovation and entrepreneurship and how important they were for the economic health of this state and our nation. I also requested Honorable Chief Minister to look at setting up a ministry specifically dedicated to entrepreneurship. If any state can do it with enlightened leadership that sets an example to the rest of the nation, it's probably Kerala. Because the sad fact is that India is not a very business-friendly country. Now, before you patriots in your audience get upset at me for being anti-India, this is not my opinion. This is the factual finding of the World Bank, which conducts its annual survey of 185 countries in a study called Doing Business. It ranks countries from 1 to 185 in the ease of doing business by looking at a variety of factors such as obtaining permits, getting electricity, protecting investors, protecting intellectual property, resolving bankruptcy, the rule of law, and a host of other relevant categories. India, in spite of its tremendous economic success, ranks a dismal 134th, yes, 134th in the world out of the 185 countries analyzed, due to almost all the problems I enumerated earlier. The more depressing stat is the fact that since last year's study, we've slipped 2 spots. We were 132nd last year, we're 134th this year. And even worse is we rank 173rd in the world in the difficulty of starting a business and 184th, almost dead last, in the ability to enforce contracts. Certainly, India has had an enviable record of economic growth and success over the past 2 decades. One could say, incredible India is shining by all accounts. But like many countries, India is saddled with a mind-numbing variety of arcane regulations that make it very difficult to start and operate a business. Additionally, our courts take forever to address wrongdoings, contractual defaults, and endemic corruption is pervasive in almost all facets of our lives. The sad conclusion? Indian entrepreneurs are succeeding in spite of their government. But succeeding they are. Indian entrepreneurs are succeeding with vision, grit, perseverance, innovative methods of getting over hurdles, and most importantly, an unshakable self-belief in their ability to inspire and lead their teams to success. So a big hand for the Indian entrepreneurs. I do love this audience. They clap on cue. History is crowded with examples of such individuals, people who so believed in their visions and ideas that they were able to inspire and lead others and accomplish extraordinary things. In world affairs, we of course have examples like Mahatma Gandhi, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, the late Nelson Mandela, Mikhail Gorbachev, amongst others. They had the gift of great vision, inspired millions, galvanized them across all facets of their lives around a cause, accomplished the impossible, and changed the world for the better. Even Hitler or Osama bin Laden could be said to fall into that category of leaders who inspired millions with the power of one, though sadly for all the wrong reasons and not for the betterment of this world. Mahatma Gandhi didn't just free India, he ended colonialism. Abraham Lincoln ended the obscenity of slavery. Martin Luther King continued Lincoln's work, his journey, with civil rights. The late Nelson Mandela ended apartheid in South Africa, and Mikhail Gorbachev brought down the Iron Curtain, freeing half of Europe and ending the Cold War. These people, of course, were unique, charismatic, extraordinary political figures. They changed the world, impacting millions and millions. But broadly speaking, when it comes to altering our daily lives, the great scientists, doctors, inventors, and entrepreneurs of the world, of history, have been far more influential than political figures. But it's highly unlikely that any one of us in this room, perhaps other than Bernard, can ever aspire to be like them. But using them as role models and studying how they lived and how they inspired others around them, in our own small way, we can also try to change the world. Think about it. Throughout the ages, individuals with this unshakable belief in the power of one have impacted our world. In the 19th century, let's not go too far back. You saw the example of the matchstick in 1827 from Mr. John Walker. Such men and women, legends that we make movies about, ignited the Industrial Revolution. Game changers such as Thomas Edison. A prolific inventor, he didn't just invent. He started 14 companies, including General Electric and Commonwealth Edison. In fact, very few people don't. He gave the world the electric light bulb, the phonograph, talking motion pictures, and 1,300 other inventions. As a combination of inventive genius and entrepreneurial flair, he is the one. I think we need the house lights on, because I do need to look at my audience. Folks, house lights up, please. Nobody listens to my cues anymore. Well, think about some other people who impacted the world during that time. Alexander Graham Bell, endowed with genuine intellectual curiosity, invented the telephone in 1876 at the age of 29. Then he went on to form the Bell Telephone Company, which ended up becoming one of the largest corporations in the entire world, AT&T. The remarkable Henry Ford, without whom John Paul might not have a business today, single-handedly brought the motor car to the masses with his Model T Ford a little over 100 years ago. But the more profound impact he had was on manufacturing. The moving assembly line that he designed to build his cars was probably the most important breakthrough of the Industrial Revolution. Starting small, these entrepreneurs of the 19th century pursued their vision. I don't have vision. Pardon, power failure. Why do we rank 134th? Getting electricity becomes a problem. Well, anyway, as I was saying, starting small, facing a lot of obstacles, they achieved, changed our lives, changed the world. The same thing happened in the 20th century, with some incredible entrepreneurs led a huge renaissance. Legends in their own time. People like Steve Jobs. 30 years ago, he invents a user-friendly computer for the masses, so wonderfully intuitive that even geeks and technophobes embrace it. He gets kicked out of his own company, he comes back and reinvents mobile phones, music, and media. It's been said the world has been influenced by 3 apples. The first was the apple Eve ate, Eve of Adam and Eve fame. The second was the apple that fell on Isaac Newton's head and changed the laws of physics. And the third was the apple given to us by Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, the legend, the magician, the innovator, the one. He recently bade goodbye to this world, but he left it in a very changed and improved state than the one he entered. Let's talk about Robert Noyce. Everybody familiar with Robert Noyce? Bob Noyce invented the microchip in 1959, heralding a revolution in miniaturization and computing. Changed our world. He founded Intel in 1968, today the world's largest manufacturer of semiconductors, and its chips gave rise to the term Silicon Valley. And then there is my own favorite from the 20th century, Ted Turner. He changed television news with CNN, which arguably helped bring down the Iron Curtain and helped him win Time Magazine's 1991 Man of the Year award. He also changed philanthropy by giving away $1 billion to the UN 15 years ago, which inspired Bill Gates and Warren Buffett to do the same. It made giving fashionable to the super rich. And he got to marry Jane Fonda. And now at the age of 75, he's saving the endangered bison by breeding them on his 15 ranches all across the United States. And you think about people with the power of one in the 21st century, and we've had plenty of them. Think about Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Not very often does your company become a verb in the dictionary. Don't believe me? Just Google it. Their mission to organize the world's information has affected almost everybody in the entire world. Think Mark Zuckerberg, Time Magazine's Man of the Year in 2010, created social media with Facebook. Think Jack Dorsey. While an undergrad at NYU, he created Twitter. Today, with 600 million users posting 400 million tweets per day and 2 billion queries per day, the world without Twitter is unimaginable. Then there's Elon Musk, my favorite, serial entrepreneur, founder of PayPal, Tesla, and SpaceX. He changed the way we pay our bills. He's now changing the automotive industry with 2012's Car of the Year. And like Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos, has set his sights firmly on commercial space travel becoming a reality in our own lifetime. So this list of people with the power of one is very long, and we can all rattle them off. We can all rattle off our personal favorites. Some fail, some succeed, some excel. And those who excel change the world. So here, without much further ado, is a couple of examples of my personal favorites, all endowed with the power of one. And their journeys are worth learning from. Let's start with Sir Alexander Fleming. Alexander Fleming's discovery of penicillin took 14 years. He started in 1914 during World War I when he was a battlefield doctor right there on the battlefront in France. And he realized that many soldiers were dying of sepsis. Sepsis is deep infection, even though lots of antiseptics were being used by the field doctors. And he discovered that these antiseptics worked well on the surface, but could not penetrate deep inside the wound where the infection existed. Unfortunately, most army physicians were skeptical about what he was talking about, so they continued to use antiseptics and killed a lot of soldiers while treating them. It took Fleming 14 years, but his discovery of penicillin was almost an accident. He wrote in his diary, "When I woke up that morning in September 1928, I certainly didn't plan to revolutionize all of medicine by discovering the world's first antibiotic. But I guess I did." By 1928, Fleming had spent 14 years trying to find this bacteria killer, so he took a month's vacation. He stacked all his bacteria cultures in the corner of his lab, and when he returned, he found that one of them had developed a fungus. And the bacteria surrounding this fungus had died, whereas the cultures that had been set a little further away were still alive and thriving. He grew this mold, he grew this fungus, and found that it killed bacteria. So he isolated, and after months of calling it mold juice, he renamed it penicillin in March of 1929 and changed medicine forever. Interesting journey of a man with the power of one. Jonas Salk is another one that truly demonstrated the power of one. Most of you are way too young to know this, but till 1955, and some of us are not that young, I can see in the audience. Till 1955, it was polio, not malaria, not smallpox, that was the most frightening public health problem in the world. The 1952 epidemic in the United States had 60,000 cases reported, 4,000 deaths, and 25,000 paralyzed, mostly children. President Harry Truman is reported to have said, "America is afraid apart from the atomic bomb, America's greatest fear is polio." So he started his quest in 1947. It took him 8 years. And the historians say this, that the field trial that he developed for his vaccine was the most elaborate program of its kind, involving 20,000 physicians, 64,000 volunteers, 64,000 school personnel, and 250,000 volunteers with 2 million school children taking part. The vaccine succeeded. Salk was hailed as a miracle worker and was asked in an interview whether he owned the patent to the vaccine. Salk replied, "There is no patent. Can you patent the sun?" Let's have a little change of pace. I'm sure many of you have seen the movie Bugsy. How many of you have seen the movie Bugsy, starring Warren Beatty? Well, it's about a notorious gangster called Benjamin Siegel, known as Bugsy to his friends. But he was endowed with the power of one, the gift of vision. He single-handedly invented Las Vegas, building a gambling mecca in the middle of a Nevada desert. Only he saw that a town like that could become an oasis, lush oasis of pleasure, where gambling is one of the attractions. So in 1945, he moved to Las Vegas, population 8,000, built his casino called the Flamingo, and today there are 75 casinos and a population of 2 million in Las Vegas, all because of Bugsy. Unfortunately, he was gunned down in 1947 by his fellow gangsters. But give the devil his due. Before there was the Bellagio, there was Bugsy. So when we think about all of this, we come to this conclusion that you don't have to be on the fast track to billionaire status to learn something from each of these people. If there's one common theme, it's this: they have vision, passion for what they do, and a real commitment to seeing it through. They all have great imagination, enthusiasm, integrity, and empowered and inspired their people around them. But that package is a tall order. Not everybody has it. But we can, by studying their lives, figure out what are the key ingredients that made them successful. And I have come up with what I think are the 10 key ingredients. You can all argue that these are the 10, and you might have your own flavor. But here they are. Number one, they articulated a compelling vision. Helen Keller, the famous blind lady, when she was asked, "Is there anything worse than being blind?" answered, "Yes, there is. The most pathetic person in the whole world is someone who has sight but has no vision." Nothing extraordinary ever happened without a leader articulating a bold vision, a course of action. We've seen this throughout history. Think about John F. Kennedy challenging the US to land a man on the moon, put a man in space by the end of the decade. Number two, they ignited enthusiasm. Inspirational leadership is all about turning a dream or vision into reality with and through the cooperation of other people. Number three, they painted a picture for the future. They invited participation. Our brains are programmed more for stories than for abstract ideas. Gandhi, Lincoln, Mandela, JFK, even Hitler, all of them were storytellers. Jonas Salk was a storyteller. He could not have galvanized 2 million people to help cure polio without the ability to tell a story. They were relentlessly optimistic. The ability to act with grace and dignity under fire when things get tough is the hallmark of optimistic people. But be a realistic optimist. Whatever you do, don't underestimate how difficult it might be, because if you think it's effortless and easy, you've got another think coming. These leaders also exemplified perseverance and grit. Just think about Alexander Fleming. It took him 14 years to discover penicillin. They knew their strengths. We lead on the basis of our strengths. We build teams on the basis of their strengths. So the number one rule in business is get the best person for the job. Rule number two, delegate. Rule number three, don't delegate success. By that I mean make sure you supervise the people that you have delegated to. The great ones, this is my characteristic number 7. The great ones focused on getting better rather than simply being good. Because our skills are malleable. We can improve with time. We can improve with effort. We can improve with passion. They stayed intellectually curious, and they earned the respect they got by walking their talk. When you conduct yourself with integrity and model the traits you want to see in others, you get the respect of those around you. Demanding respect just because of your position or title will not get you very far. And finally, number 10, they were willing to stand alone. If you have a passion, dream, or mission, you will find that sometimes you may have to work alone. You'll probably be lonely. People will follow you for a while. However, when things get tough, when pleasure and comfort compete with responsibility and long hours, some followers may drop off. And this is when you have to stick to your goal and be prepared to stand alone. Remember, there's a famous quote, and I forget who said it. You know, they say as you get older, memory is the second thing that goes. I forgot what the first was. But the famous quote is, a person who wants to lead the orchestra needs to turn his back to the crowd. So as Steve Jobs said, your time is limited. Don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, living the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of other opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most importantly, have the courage to follow your own intuition. So, to sort of put a wrap on this power of one, which is kind of a difficult topic, right? I wrote a poem that I think might help put it all together. And I call it, That One Is You. So here goes. Do you feel sometimes lost and nameless, like one raindrop in deep ocean's blue? A snowflake on mountains majestic, fleeting vapor from morning dew. A whisper hushed by competing voices, a haunting note in melodies sung. Yes, we're part of a wondrous family, yet still defined by the power of one. One tree can start a forest, one flower can awaken a dream. One song can spark a moment, one bird can herald spring. One smile begins a friendship, one laugh will conquer gloom. One candle destroys the darkness, one sunbeam lights a room. One breath brings life internal, one path will lead you there. One step must start each journey, one touch can show you care. One word must start each prayer, one voice can speak with wisdom. Stay the course, light a star, change the world wherever you are. One person can make a difference, and that one is you. Thank you.